Hello, Rohan.
Hello, UncleTalk. Nice to be back. Thanks for having me. Really excited. We've been waiting for a long time to talk about metacognition.
Yeah, that's a kind of hot topic. we refer to this topic almost in any talk we had. In
Yeah.
our videos for new parents or even internally, we always refer to this metacognition and metacognitive abilities. It's true. It's very very important, and I think it's good that now we have one video finally only for this, and to
Yes,
go through all the
dedicated.
kind of stuff.
Long time necessary to dedicate some time for this topic.
And you will see later that actually this is one of the very fundamental way of the teaching approach, or something which I look at as a glue between whatever we do at Kidocode and also what we are trying to achieve. So that's why today it's a good chance that we a little bit clarify this to make it simple, easy to understand, and also you parents can get a better understanding of what is this. And even not for children, I think it's important for companies, for their staffs, their managers, their team members, and it's something that can be applied to everyone, and that's what we're going to do.
Nice, exactly. Let's get into that. I would say it's relevant for basically the whole humanity, right? Maybe it's even fundamentally what makes us human. That's an interesting topic, but we'll hold that for the end. So generally, for the people who are watching metacognition, we talk a lot about it. Here at Kidocode, the simplest way to talk about it is probably it's thinking about thinking, right? That's how we define it. And we don't really use this word in normal conversation. It's quite an interesting scientific word. It might sound a bit scary for some people. So who better than UncleTalk, someone who's obviously founded a startup based on education, who's imbibed some of the principles of metacognition in the very thing that we do day in and day out to explain first of all, what metacognition is, and then how it relates to education. So UncleTalk, take it away.
No problem at all. So let's a little bit go through it. If I have a question, Rohan, I know that you also do some self-learning in programming languages and also HTML and CSS, right?
Yes.
How is your approach when you are doing this self-learning, for example, for CSS or HTML?
Right. So for me, it's usually like I have maybe some personal project or something I've seen online that I'm like, oh, that's really cool, and I wanna make it, I wanna mimic it. And so I go down this rabbit hole of finding tutorials, learning about it. If there's some principle I don't understand, and I try to understand it. And then eventually I get to a point where I try it out, so I test it myself, and and hopefully if it's not too hard, I get there and I actually do it. So that's usually my process. It's kind of like pretty like just straightforward. Try to solve an actual problem I have by figuring out information, finding stuff online, and then applying it.
So you try to come up with, you try to build and construct a project, right? A project that the way you try to learn this stuff is project-based learning. Am I correct?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You just made up a project.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Pretty much. Yeah.
Or maybe you find some similar projects in a tutorial in a web that you try to replicate it.
Exactly. Yes.
So then you construct a project. That means you figured out for you, project-based learning is really something good for this particular CSS HTML, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
How about, for example, when you is this the approach that you apply to everything, or for example, let's say when you want to learn something about design thinking, what is your approach for that concept, which is a little bit more theoretical, let's say, in compare with the HTML CSS? What do you do for that?
Yeah, I guess so. When something is a bit more, like you said, theoretical or conceptual, then I would say it's more of like me trying to understand fundamentally the I would say, like, especially with design, there's a lot of sort of meaning behind it, right? Understanding sort of first principles, why things work the way they work. So there's a lot of why, I think, asked at the beginning of anything that relates to design, right? Why does this matter? Why is this important? How does this connect to the message I'm trying to communicate to other people? So maybe with design, it's a little bit less, I would say, hands-on and practical at first. It's more like conceptual. I'm trying to understand the bigger picture of things. So I wouldn't say it applies to everything I want to learn, but eventually I do feel that I manifest that learning through a project in some way, but it doesn't always start that way. Yeah.
Okay. So so I see that you apply two different approaches for learning HTML CSS. Just for your information, parents, that HTML and CSS is two languages, declarative languages that we use to build web pages and create the layout with HTMLs and put the data, and the CSS apply all those kind of colors, fonts, animations, and many more things. So do you do that one? You apply it by project. It's very good because you feel it's very optimized and effective and good enough to do that. And but when you go to design thinking, you have an understanding that the topic is different than HTML CSS. You need to go through some prerequisite. You need some a linear way. That means you have to learn for this and then this one and then this one, because if you go to the projects, you're going to be a lot of ambiguity pop up from everywhere. And
Yes.
true, it's very like that. If you, for example, you want to learn to build something or you want to know a concept, and so this is one thing. When you understand that you have to go and do some sort of self learning, how is your evaluation that you lack of
Mm.
something or you need something?
Yeah, I guess there are a couple of scenarios, right? So the first and most obvious one, which I think a lot of people probably can relate to, is immediate need. So sometimes there is a particular task that comes your way through work or through whatever, and that obviously stimulates like, oh, I don't know this, I need to go and learn it. So that's number one. That's pretty much every day that happens, right? For most of us at Kidocode, we're always trying to learn something new because we have to. Then there's also, I think, a part of me that is aware of where I want to go, where I want to be, right? So there's this vision or this concept I have of myself as a designer or as a maybe sort of designer slash front end slash something like that, and I see where I want to go, and so like I have this vision of myself, and so I say, okay, if I want to get there, I need to have these skills, right? So then that drives the self-learning. It's an idea about, oh, okay, I wanna get to this point, I want to learn these things because I know I need to learn them to get there. And then perhaps there's one more, which is, or maybe it's connected, I would say, is that there's also maybe a sense of fear, right, of being left behind. So there's an element of that as well, which FOMO, I think is
kind of FOMO.
Right. Yeah, FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Exactly, right? There's a sense of like, oh, if I don't do this, like, there are going to be a couple of kids, like, which I already know exist, like that are, maybe 10, 20 years younger than me, and they're gonna be way better than me in this. And so there's an element of like, oh, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to be get left behind. So yeah, there's fear, but there's also self-driven like interest in learning or being excited about something. Learning a new concept is always fun, especially if it's something that you care about or you're interested in. And then the third one, which is like, the first one technically that I said, which is just out of basic necessity in the most immediate sense.
True. So I saw two, when I was listening to different examples that you said, I want to categorize it in two ways. Some intrinsic, some intrinsic. I see those, for example, in your working environment, you face with a task or with a project that you see that you evaluate the task first. You build something we call it task knowledge, that it tell you that this task is difficult, Rohan, you don't have the skills, okay, and then that send you the message that go and do self-learning or learn or gain the skills. So basically you are keep doing this whenever you face with any task. And the intrinsic, this is intrinsic as coming outside, okay. The part that you said, the second part that you said, you feel something yourself or FOMO or that kind of thing. These are actually coming from understanding your own capabilities. It's coming from yourself, the way that you look at yourself, right? That means I like to look at you as a content. If self is a content, so this is content knowledge. Or if the task is something come the outside, we look at that one as a task, as a challenge, as a task knowledge. So content knowledge and task knowledge. So these are two abilities that you needed to bring you, to motivate you to go and start to learn. And then when you start to learn, it's interesting that it's not just go and learn. Then you have some approaches to apply it to see which learning model better for you, like the one project-based learning. So you do planning. You start to come up with best way to optimize. And then also there is another thing I have in my mind. Well, how about this? If let's say it's not a new task, it's a task that you know it, okay,
Mhm.
and you're in the middle of a project, okay, and then you suddenly come up with three different ideas that or strategies that you have to apply. Then maybe one of those strategies you don't know it very well.
Mhm.
So have you ever faced with this that you have three ideas in your mind, you know how to do two of them, and then the third one you're not well enough good in that, and then you just then they go and learn. You had something experience like that as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a given in any for any, like, because there's always, I think, multiple ways of learning any one thing. And there's there sometimes some ways faster, some ways longer, some ways maybe a mix of both. And usually it's finding that balance between what I find interesting, the practicality of what I find interesting, right? How can I really actually use this thing that I'm interested in? And then also, then I guess the third factor is like time, right? Like, do I actually even have the time to do that? Even if I was super interested, can I actually commit, or is it actually feasible? So I guess these three parameters for me is how I would think about what strategies are effective. But naturally, yes, there are always certain strategies of learning or doing something that sometimes get eliminated or get explored because you're trying to find the right balance between time and motivation and practicality. Yeah.
True. So I see this. It's really interesting. You look at this. Look at the whole thing. Maybe I can say that there are moments that you face with this question that what I do have, what knowledge I do have, what skills I do have, what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So because if you can't answer this question, probably you got a kind of miscalculation in things that you have to learn, or maybe there are things you're good, but you
Yeah.
are suffering from not having a proper understanding of
Mm.
your capabilities, and spend time for no reason, maybe for, irrelevant FOMO while you do have
That's
enough
good.
information.
That's a good
It's
point.
very
Yeah.
common,
Yeah.
right? This
Yes. Yes.
this social media is a common thing, even not only for Instagram, that you see someone is beautiful and you think you're not beautiful enough. It's
Yeah.
about you read an article in for example in design thinking, and it's very written nice, but you think, oh, so I'm not good, I have to go and read again. It's same
Exactly.
things.
Right.
So
Exactly.
this what question. And number two is, um, when you start to look at that task, you remember the task, so I call it how I am going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
how I am trying to align my knowledge and this and that to apply it. So sometimes when you face with the how, then you back to do the self-learning. Sometimes when you face with the what, you go and do the self-learning. And this that we discuss about it, a strategy, I call it when or why. When or why. Why this? Why not that? So when you're in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of answering the why, again, you need that to back to do the self-learning. So there are sort of three ways that, or three form of knowledge that when you see that they send you the alarm, then you start to do the learning procedure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
this is, I try to extract. Let's not talk about HTML, CSS anymore. Let's not talk about design thinking. Let's talk about this as the framework that your
Mm.
brain evolved to use it to survive. You want to
Interesting. Yeah.
survive. This is
Yeah.
survival. This is I believe that if you go and learn CSS, okay, you call it because of fun, because of education, because of passion, but I call it, you're doing the same as 10,000 years ago. It's
Mhm.
survival. You're trying to not
Right.
die. You're trying to
Yeah.
not die, but you are human. You're existentialist. You try to inject meaning to whatever you do. You like to say that I'm working in education for children. It gives you a better feeling. But
Yes.
deep down, you're doing those core survival functions. But we
Exactly.
have this
Yeah.
capability to connect it to humanity, to educations, to
Mm.
learning, to getting better, to FOMO, to society, to all these kind of things. Oh, so beautiful is this mathematics. So I always say this. Okay, so beautiful, but it's survival. I need that beauty, so I'm trying to
Yeah.
find my survival there. So this ability, what is this ability that has been? It seems has been with us since the very beginning. That means we knew that we have to invent agriculture.
Mm.
because we figured out climate changes became stable, so we are not anymore doing a migration. So why not find a way to get the food from the same place? And the high level of this skill led us to build agriculture, discover agriculture in today Philippines, or then industrial revolution, or many more example. That means this isn't a skill, or invent the language. So these are the necessity coming out of something. This is something to me beyond math or STEM or philosophy or topic or learn or whatever. This is something very critical. You see that when you look, when you watch a movie, look at your your relationship to actor and actress. It seems like actor and actress, they don't have awareness about your presence.
Yes.
You are an observer, right? You can see them, you can look at them.
Right.
If you remember Truman, I don't know, you guys watched or not? It's a nice movie. Jim Carrey play, and he play in a kind of city that looks like an. But I shouldn't talk about it. If spoiler alert, you watched it? Old
No,
movie.
I haven't. I
You
haven't
haven't
watched it. No.
Okay. So I can use it as an example. Why you haven't watched? It's
Oh
surprise.
no,
It's a
I
really
don't. I haven't
surprise.
watched it. I've heard. I
Oh,
guess I've heard of this. The Truman Show. Is it? Is that the movie? Oh
yes,
no.
yes.
Right.
It's
Okay. Yeah.
definitely watch it. This is
Okay. Okay.
very interesting. Through many different aspects can be utilized. So back to that. Imagine there is a movie that actor and actress, they don't have presence of your awareness of your presence.
Mhm.
Okay, and but you look at them. You even can apply to the way they play, the things happen to them, make some changes in their world. Like when you play game, maybe game is good, huh? When you play Sim City,
Yeah.
those characters, they don't have awareness about your presence, but you are there.
Right.
But what if
Exactly.
characters get the presence, the awareness of you exist? You imagine
Yes.
how will be the game?
Yeah.
It's another dimension, right? It's getting into
Exactly.
different
Yeah.
dimension. So back to this metacognition. This is skill that I'm trying to see how you apply it. It's called metacognition.
Mhm.
Metacognition is exactly what you are doing. You know, this ability. That means this survival ability. Question is how much you reach to awareness about it. How much
Mhm.
it's your automated. How much it became on your hand when you wanted to use it and you apply it. And a better question is also how we can work and build this from early ages, because apparently this is the main thing. This is the container. Doesn't matter it's you would apply it for
Mm.
STEM or whatsoever. It doesn't matter. This is what human does. We know animal has cognition. We have animals, they have cognition.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cat, dogs, monkeys.
Yes.
Some of them,
Yes.
they are. But metacognition is something different. As you mentioned, thinking about thinking.
Mhm.
Thinking, I sit down and I'm Rohan. How I learn? What are my learning methods? How I remember things? I'm a visual person or not? How can I find things? How typically I search? When I need, I have to search. Where are my disadvantages or advantages, weaknesses, strengths, opportunity, threat, the SWOT analysis? Where are my kind of challenges that I can take it? And if people ask me, I tell them no. Or what are the things that I have to work? So this is main thing. This is the
Mhm.
main things, and you didn't get it from a school.
Oh
You
yeah. No, definitely
you get it
not.
naturally because it's with you. But the
Mhm.
problem is never trained properly for this. And
That's
now
true. Yeah.
imagine another version of yourself that could get 10% of all the trainings that you got in your life for math, for HTML, for design thinkings, for many learning. You learned a lot of things in your life, playing musics and many things, but you never get training for thinking about thinking.
Right.
What sort of human you could be if you had 2 years or 1 years non-stop only practicing this in a proper
Mm.
academic way. So this is metacognition.
Nice. That's really cool. I think I'm like, and for everyone listening, it's something that obviously we talk about at Kidocode, so we're reasonably clear about it. But I think what Uncle Code just mentioned there was it's so important to understand. Like, there's this inherent value in having this ability from a younger age as well, because the more, because what you have then is time on your side, right? You have time on your side. And that's the thing, right? Because like sort of this self-awareness thing, it usually happens, well, sometimes it doesn't even happen, but it usually, if it does happen, happens later on in life, right? And then, but the real benefit to having it embedded as part of an education system there is, at least to me, what that sounds like is like, oh wow, like, now I don't have to wait till I'm, out of university before I start thinking like, oh, what is it that I actually know and what I need to learn and what's important for me to go where I want to go, right? Because so much of, like, I think the education system, what it currently does is like, it almost sets us up on a linear path. It says, hey, go this way, you'll get somewhere, right? But I think what metacognitive abilities would do for so many kids is it would ask them to question that somewhere right from the beginning and decide how they want to get to wherever it is that they want to go right from the beginning. And that would be like a huge right, like thing, like, because it's basically actually in some way I feel like it gives people freedom, right? It gives people freedom instead of just following whatever you're being told or whatever you think is right based on whatever people tell you. You now have a more sort of elevated stance to kind of judge yourself or evaluate yourself, if that makes sense, right?
I extremely believe that the classical way, the way we are learning in a school, it doesn't give an opportunity to metacognitive abilities to rise, to form, to shape, because you never subjected to this. You know what? For example, you never being questioned. Dear students, in this semester, you are designing your learning methodology. Do you? What? We never had such a things.
Yeah.
Or you never engage with, okay, everyone experience this week this way that I'm teaching you math. In the next 4 weeks, I tried 4 different teaching approach of the math, and then let's sit them. Let me know which one was better. Nobody does this. If I'm a teacher, I do it for myself. Then I pick up the one that I want to apply. So always students are passive because it's teacher centric. This metacognition means you matter. You are the center. So if the learning model is not a student centric, how on earth you can talk about it? Looks like you want to train people, because metacognition is about self-awareness. Even if I have some way to increase your metacognition, but in the way that you don't know it, it's not metacognition. So it's kind of a robotic way that I'm implanting some ideas in your brain. This is not the way. You have to build it. This is about a metacognition. I want you to learn to build it, to survive it. Go out and build the culture and technology and understand the awareness and environment. It's very important. If someone get this understanding, when it comes to ethic, it's very important, Rohan. If someone understand the environment, impact of or technology and life in the environment, these are metacognitive understanding of the universe. That means we could look at layers on top of the layers, understanding how human thinks, how human react. And when it comes to ourselves, it matters, because in psychological term, it gives you great satisfaction when you know who you are. When you have anxiety, when you have strengths, when you react like this and that. So you put yourself in situation, you build situation that fit in a better way. And I think in a school we didn't have time. The time was not enough because it was full by many other things.
Yeah, I'm almost like thinking about it now. The fact that it's not a part of school, like I have to ask myself why is it not a part of school, right? That makes me it really, I know this is going to sound like a real conspiracy theory thing kind of here, but like I think that's, we talked about this idea of, well, I mentioned that metacognitive abilities give people freedom. You just mentioned there that not having that is basically like being controlled like a robot. And so there's an element of like the conspiracy theorist, the inner conspiracy theorist in me feels like maybe this is what so many of like the governments and people in power and, like systems that have been created are just meant to enforce control and like it basically raise a generation and generations of robots that can't think for themselves and can't figure out things, right?
Maybe we are living in a matrix and matrix 4 is coming.
Oh man,
I
that's really
think
interesting.
I can be disagree, and I think that society with a high metacognitive ability, it's a very different society. I mean, like
Mhm.
the government, the system, the education, the impact of the people on the decisions, and many more
Mhm.
things. It will be very different, very, very different. And I think this is something. This is an issue around the world. It's not only one country. This is a
Absolutely.
global issue. I think one of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
global crises. I think is this lack of metacognitive abilities on people, especially children. We, as an adult, we try to gain it slowly, but it's not like many things that the school does not teach. This is one of them. I hope this become a foundation, and true, it produce more predictable people. You know, when it's not there, people are more predictable because it's,
Yeah.
remember, industrialized model. In the beginning of industrialization, it was a necessity to have
Hmm.
people like this, people that they can do same things in a mass production way. That's
Hmm.
what they needed. You know, Adam Smith, his example was, rather than give one person to do the whole job, to build, for example, one chair, divide that chair to 12 steps and hire 12 people, and everyone do the little bit of that 12 steps, and then have thousands of these people next to each other, and you're gonna have thousands of chairs in a day. And it worked, it was efficient,
Mhm.
but it killed the essence of self. That means when
Yeah.
a person built one chair, this is mine. I did this. I'm loyal to this chair. But now I'm just punching a pin in this part of the chair. So this is a little bit more thinking like Karl Marx and
Hmm.
in versus the Adam Smith. So these two different mindsets versus together. So I see more toward metacognition and individualism and the person. But now in a modern world, modern working environment, freelance economy, gig economy, metacognition come to the game because now you have to learn, you have to
I
survive.
have
So
to.
I
Yeah.
see it's coming back again. So maybe in industrial revolution till today, Adam Smith won versus Karl Marx. But now Karl Marx again, sort of Karl Marx, not exactly communism, but so that part that no, we are individual. We have to enjoy. We have to attach. We have to get the meaning and inject the meaning into what we do.
Really nice. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. What, like, so is it, so, you talked about the fact that for someone like me, I happen to gain these skills somewhere along the way, right? This awareness about myself. Is it possible to teach it, right? Like, is it like, can the education system, like, because I feel like all it would take is, like, you just tell students to be aware of this, right? Like, just listening to us now would be enough. Like, but like, what is there sort of a more procedural way of doing it? Like, how do you actually educate people on how to be metacognitive, if that makes sense?
Very interesting question. The answer is definitely yes. Definitely, there are games, there are apps, there are teaching approaches. But to
Mm.
understand exactly how this should be applied, it's good that we talk about stages of uh, um,
Nice. Yeah, let's do that.
metacognition, because then we know how to apply it in a learning approach. Because if I answer this question, then I have already answered the stages. So maybe we good. It's good. I suggest we talk about stages.
Let's do
And
that. Let's talk about the stages. Nice.
so for typically there are different perspectives, but one of them which is very good is the Bloom taxonomy, which define stages of metacognition. There are 6 stages, and then I like to add one more stage to these 6 stages, but I'll talk about it later. These stages start from first one. The first stage is about remembering. So first stage is what schools are good, and I think they stopped at that station, is remembering. Remembering the
Mhm.
ability that to memorize. Memorization is very very important, or mnemonic, which is about these skills that you memorize, you improve them, and it's very important. We know that memorization it matters because you want to act instantly and apply your knowledge into what you are facing. You can't go back to your book and always know. You have to
Yeah.
instantly decide. So memorization is important. At this stage, we keep asking students to what we do now to memorize. So this is very similar. Everyone know how to do that. Okay, so I think we can really. So we ask, define for me the meaning of this. Describe who was the person did this in 1992. Who was the guy that did in the 1527? These questions are famous. So names, facts, a list, a hierarchy, structures, dates. These are all locations. These are the things that we talk about them into processing data and information in the universe. It's about understanding universe. Then the second, so I'll talk about this stage, but something that you have to remember that in all this stage, we have to bring a student to act. For example, in the school system, you come to the school and I say, okay, these are the books I'm going to teach. There is an exam. So you didn't do anything. You didn't face with this question why we need to memorize something. So this why and these questions are a part of daily in the school. That means they are like we want to raise philosophers. Keep asking, questioning, why should I learn this? Why we need the memorization? So teachers spend time for these things. That means we do have courses for this stuff before we go to the math. And then when we are in the math also, we have topics and understanding why trigonometry created, why we need trigonometry. Different than a teachers just come and start the formula and say, this is a triangle, this is the hypotenuse, and this is the two sides, and this divided by that one is the sine and cosine, and use it, and thank you so much. No, it's about, a story is about bringing engagement, and you understand. So what important, Rohan, more than trigonometry is how trigonometry created. That means you understand the necessity that formed years ago and how human mind could build such a thing. That is what you have to experience again. Not learn trigonometry. You have to first experience that one, because in the future, I hope you build things like the way we did to build trigonometry in your job. That is what I want. Not only you memorize and use it, and you may not, you may use. Depends on your future job. So this is important. So any stage that I'm talking about, they have this approach.
Exactly. Yeah. It's almost as like, for me, what that means, like, it's like you need to understand how value can be created, right? Because if you can't understand how value is created or what value is, why bother doing anything? Why memorize anything? Nothing matters, right? Nothing matters if you don't know why it matters. Exactly.
Just a robot, just okay. Exactly. Mommy, daddy wanted, the school wanted.
Exactly.
So I mean, it depends on what matters to you. Okay, you're religious. You say they tell you God will be happy. Go and do it. If you are in different mindset, you say mommy, daddy want to do that. Or there are a lot of things actually, but it's very important that you will be engaged. So stage one is the memorization. So look at the first stage was remembering in the bottom. The second stage is understanding. Understanding is coming after remembering. So this understanding, it's very important. I collected a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, factual informations. Okay, now I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to be able to summarize things that I learned. I try to interpret. I try to explain. Explanation is different than just memorization. Okay, this may happen still in some schools, in some sort of good examination, in some sort of good places, but it's not that much. Or discussion is like that. You know what? For example, one of the nice thing that I see in Stack Overflow, it's keep is about this kind of discussion, understanding. That means people, they come and ask you questions, and people come and share the experience to answer the questions. This has stages of this cognition. So one of my strategy actually is participating in the question answering forum for people that they want to increase their metacognition ability, because you see how people ask questions, why they answer different answers. You understand, you connect the dots. So understanding matters. So remembering, then making sense out of those informations that you received, you memorized. Now you can think also about it that when it comes to your own school or own college or own work, that how we do that. You know that there are many things we memorize. We leave at that point. We stopped at that point. You never continue. To me, looks like many, for example, books you purchase you never read, many movie you download you never watch, many I don't know, kind of activities you started after 1 month you left. So when we graduate from a school, we have a lot of things like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can remember tons of, I can't remember tons of things that I learned in school because I just remember them and then it's out the door once I don't need them anymore, right?
You see how much we are full of shallow knowledge rather than deep.
Exactly.
Why is more in shallow? Why not, that because it was wide. It was, and we never went through all these stages for those things that we were learning.
Exactly. Yes, that's right.
So
That makes perfect sense.
the third step is applying. So you see the applying coming after the understanding. But most of times now we get graduated from the school who we do applying after remembering. So that's what is happening now. You see engineers, you see people with expertise, they have a degree, but when you hire them and ask them to apply, they don't know what to do.
Yeah, true.
Especially junior staff, they don't know how to apply it because they never went through understanding of it. So they just,
Mm.
do you know this in interview? And in that today interview became based on remembering. Rohan, do you know what is, for example, typography? Very good, well done. He explained very well. If you explain very well, I consider that you are a good staff and you're a good team member. But then when it comes to applying, oh, you need a mentor. Oh, I need a senior designer. You need this and that, because you never went through these stages.
Right.
So applying is using the understanding, and understanding coming after the data. So data, fact, information. So you're trying to
Mm.
build knowledge, okay, knowledge base. So now you're trying to use your understanding to apply to a situation and cases, questions and projects and all these kind of things that you try. For example, you build a project yourself and you apply it, or the projects that you face within the working environment, and you try to kind of calculate, process, draw a chart, diagrams, design, that kind of things to apply. So this is a nice way that now is, you see, now is making sense more. You're getting more into this procedure. The fourth step is on called analyzing. So this analyzing is really important. You know what? Look at this. Maybe examples now. You start to apply the information to different, maybe to your projects, your tasks, or whatsoever you have it. So
Okay.
now look at this. You are requested to pause to do reflection. Reflection is one of the
Right.
psychological technique for increasing metacognitive abilities. We
Mhm.
don't do reflection. Students, they never do reflection. We
Oh
don't
yeah.
have teacher, school students. Hold on a moment, guys. Forget about everything. Pause. What you are doing. Do you understand what is
Mm.
happening? Do you
Yeah.
know what is set theory? Do you know this trigonometry? Do you know this biology? What do you feel? Think about it. This week, just go and contemplate.
Mhm.
We don't have task of thinking. I go and sit down and do the meditation and thinking about why is happening, why is like that, why universe is like that. And the great people, great thinkers, they were doing this actually. It's so painful. These people, Einstein, in physics, in chemistry, in mathematics, all these people, they created these nice things through the metacognitive abilities. And today we have
Mm.
a schools, we raise children to not be like them. What is this?
That's true.
You just memorize. If we are in charge to just memorize or 1,000 years ago heroes, how we're going to build new heroes? This is not true. No,
Exactly.
this is absolutely wrong. So back to analyzing. Now you want to analyze different approaches that you have done. Analyze is not
Mhm.
evaluation. Analyze is about being able to look at your approaches, your systems, to be able to evaluate them later. So you have to explore the relationship between the data and approaches that you applied. You have to categorize, you have to compare, you have to organize them and structure them. This is coming after applying. You apply and then you see what is happening. So what is the result? The next stage
Mhm.
is evaluation. Evaluation come after you've done the analysis. The analysis is down. Now you have proper data. You know some standards. You know some metrics that you can apply, and then you can compare it. You can do some
Mm.
critical thinking, critical
Nice.
comparison, and make a judgment and conclusion. Okay, this approach is a nice approach. We want to pick this up. We're going to do this and that, and then here is the part that you learn this: the proper judgment.
Okay.
If a child raising like this, we have less wrong judgment. We tell the people, don't judge me, but judgment is
Mm.
an important thing. Maybe we should say, you know what, you and I coming from a wrong school system, we can't judge properly, so let's not judge each other. But we need to judge each other. You just, oh, I'm confused, sorry. So that is actually what I can say. Finally, the last step is creating. So creating is very important. So here that, so the evaluation is done. Now we know what approaches are good. This is the
Mm.
part that we bring it to real time, real life products, buildings, solutions, problems. creating something that was maybe coming out of the whole result. So and this is the part that we build, we construct, we produce, we devise or invent something. The invention happened at this stage. So look at for now these 6 stages. If we are in a school, we can do this all the time, especially flipped classroom models, if especially project-based learning. It's not, you see, this is a theme for learning, a theme for engaging students. It's a framework. So for example, students, we want to teach them about a disease or health or COVID. So we can start to give them facts, remember, so we don't lose facts. Okay, so people, it's scary when you want to give them a new approach. I think memorization is not there. So we give them the facts, and then they have to understand. They do survey, they ask people, come up A/B testings and bring the data, and then they analyze and then evaluate and then come up with the solutions and approaches. They keep doing these stages, but in these stages, they keep learning those three important components: content knowledge. That means they understand themselves because I exist. I understand this. This to give you this understanding of your abilities, your capabilities, your self-awareness, and also the difficulty you face with these tasks and activities. Understand that there is such a difficulty, and you try to not do bias. You try to understand this task level. If you consider easy task difficult, you are not confident in yourself. That's one of the problem of lack of metacognition. If you get a task, it's really difficult, but you don't understand, you think it's easy, something is wrong. Okay, so you need some adjustment in your cognitive abilities. So these are important. These are the problem we have, because we never in a school we practice this to understand that this is wrong, this is correct, this is difficult. So we don't have good understanding of ourselves. Sometimes it's too much arrogance, sometimes it's lack of it. That means we don't have confidence. So these stages help me to answer your main question, that how these things can come to schools. By understanding these stages, designing content and curriculum through these approaches, and using technology that can compute, we can compute your assessment, your engagement through these stages, we definitely can have it. And already metacognition is high through computer programmers and open source and people in digital literature. It's really high because they keep freelancers, they keep facing with these stuff. So this definitely can come to a school by following these things. And the step that I want to add here is, when you build up these kind of things, I want to call it promotion.
Okay.
Promotion is when that you learn to promote it to universe, to people, to communicate, to bring it out. If it's very important that you get the skill of building nice narrative, a story, an understanding of how can I present what I did. Because if you can present, and if you can give a speech, you can reach to a stage to explain to people what you have done. Or if you don't know what is, for example, a pitch deck or in presentation structures, or how to write something that capture people's eyes, in the sense that what you have done, something to me is wrong. And this is again come from metacognitive abilities. That means I have to understand not only abilities and capabilities of myself, the product that I created, the audience that I have. You see that metacognition can cross from your mind and reach to the society, social level. That now I have understanding of people capabilities. I can sense it. I can bring it to my communication with them. So promotion or communication or negotiation, we can maybe make them 3 stages, or we can look at them in one box. It's what I like to add top of these 6 stages.
Nice. That's really cool. That makes sense. Like I'm really interested in like the whole. So I get the tree, and I like that you've added this additional stage, because I think it's something that, oftentimes we overlook it, right? We're always thinking about ourselves, and like, but this gives context to the self in the larger whole, right? And almost gives us, I think, like an awareness of our responsibility, right? Kind of like what we do at Kidocode, I feel, right? That we've, as an organization, at least, I guess because you're the founder, we have this awareness about the fact that, yes, we know all these things, but it's not just good enough to do it ourselves. We have to share that, and we have to take that, and we have to bring it to the next level, and then they have to know it, and then they have to share it, right? So it's really, it's a team thing, right? It's almost like, I guess it creates sort of this maybe this is sort of that level of, like, I don't know, maybe almost like moral obligation to society, right? Where you promote things or you share things because you know that they are benevolent for others or something like that, right? So there's an element of, maybe that's where some of that, like, I know morality is a whole other topic, but like I feel like that's somehow connected to that last stage right there. It's an interesting idea, right? Right. So, okay, that's really cool. And yeah, so building off of that, I'm really interested to hear. Obviously, you talked about the now 7 stages. What are your thoughts on obviously how we can, I should say, teach this? How can we bring this into an education system? What procedurally, what can schools, teachers, parents do to help their kids develop these skills from a young age?
You know what? I think this required a lot of changes from a school curriculum designer. I told this before that I hope I see one day behavioral economists, game designers, they sit down with academics to build school curriculum. This required a sort of changes in the way we design the curriculum, because if our assessment is only based on memorization, so we're going to have good people that they remember everything.
Right.
You know, when you go
Which
to
we
medical
do,
school,
we have many of them.
yeah, we have many of them, and they get good mark. They always get good mark. That means they were
Yes.
really good. Number one, A plus, and then so this required this. This is something that you know what? Now there are a lot of good teachers that they do this by themselves. That means you see teachers in classrooms that they understand, and they're understanding too. I think this understanding is really getting popular and global. That means people understood that this is not the way. It's not just like go and finish. You know, we are such a kind of human that sometimes we live too much in tomorrow. When we
Right.
live too much in tomorrow, so we want to just finish today soon. So when if I'm a parent, the day my child go to the school first year, then I feel, oh, when this year's finished soon, I bring him her to age 18 and then job done. So I'm keep thinking of too soon this 12 years finish and he or she go to the university and finish. So we think we are preparing for tomorrow. We don't look at these school days. It's so important. We think the problem is school is there to prepare for university. That's the problem.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
the damn problem.
Yeah. Instead of actually thinking about, are we actually educating people? We're trying to prepare them for something. We're educating them almost for a purpose. So it's like we've predetermined the purpose actually, and that's the problem,
And
right?
this is not tomorrow. It's 12 years later.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's true. It's basically we've dictated and we've locked onto the future that we want, right? Again, this whole conspiracy theory between kind of a predictive, people in power wanting a predictable society, a predictable set of people, so that they can be manipulated or be controlled or whatever that is. It's scary. You think about it, it's really scary,
and
right?
you
That
as a parent, you know what, what you as a child, 12 years later you're a different person. 12 plus 4 years, the bachelor, if you added 16, you definitely are a different person. So why from today everything? But if a school turn to, if we imagine that now at age 16, 17 I can be a freelancer, okay, so then we understand that awareness can happen sooner. So to me, schools, as I said, that I don't want to say we should destroy today school and build a new one, but I want to say that there are a lot of changes must happen. They are not scary. I mean, it's not difficult, but quantity is high. And thanks to technology, if we don't pick up technology, definitely this will be a pain. Because what is different than between today and 50 years ago? Internet, data, a stream of data. Data is everywhere. You and I, we are data even now.
Right now.
And when people look at us, we are information, total information. So this is the new world. The world is about this. In this new world, economical foundation, core values changed. Supply and demand changed. It doesn't work with previous models. So back to schools, I think curriculum should be different. Tools, very important. There are interesting tools. And this, we can talk about this topic in different maybe video, because there are a lot of things we can discuss about what schools can do to supply more metacognitive abilities into their system. But what I can say that there are a lot of books, a lot of researches happening now. There are some famous people, they have talked in TED, and there are tools and applications that measure this amount of cognitive abilities in human by some tests and quizzes. So if these things get together into in form of formative assessment into online learning system, so we can measure, and then we can try to do that. But the most important thing, again, we have to give freedom and give you feel awareness when you matter, when you are this, awareness come out of decision making. So the most
Yes.
important thing, decision making. Even simple. Today we're gonna start our mathematics class. These are the topics. What do you think we should start? If you as a teacher, you know that you have to start from the number theory or first set theory, do it. But first, convince children why a set theory is important.
Right, exactly.
Okay, be able to spend the time a little bit to do that. But of course, in a school system that you have to go through many courses and memorization in the school and the exam, this is not gonna work. This is not gonna work. If
Yeah.
if we reduce the number of courses, if we became more specified in what children they want to be in the future, and relax a little bit, and not just do everything fast because there is an exam, there is a next exam, and there's university, then it
Yeah.
will be a beautiful garden.
Yeah. Totally. I can just imagine like this I'm envisioning a world where people care more about the process and the why and what actually this is all for, instead of this is for a test, this is for a job, this is for that, like it's everything somehow, at least. And maybe this again boils down to money, capitalism, this whole directive of just preparing people to basically be ready to spend money, because that's how industries and economies survive, right? And instead of actually caring about, you talk about a garden, and I think it's a great metaphor, because this idea of nourishment, right? Nourishing people's self through knowledge, which again they discover it themselves. So it's real knowledge. It's real knowledge. It's not like a imposed idea. I think that's a beautiful thing. Super excited, super hopeful that people who obviously watch this and listen to this talk will try and look into this more, and whether or not it's adopted by the school system, which hopefully we will play a part as Kidocode in changing. Everyone at home, take a look at yourself, right? Look at yourself, think about how you think, and get ready to be part of a metacognitive society, hopefully in the future.
No, it's an interesting term, metacognitive society. That means you're truly right. I think if you have high amount of metacognitive abilities, no matter what is your life choices, your religious, your you have or you have not religious, your political point of view, your decision, the style you use for your dresses, whatever you do, if you have that amount, all the things that you do coming out of the strong awareness. You know what? One of the things that I always prefer, for example, I can sit down with a person and do a debate that why you do have this ideology, okay? But there is something important. If that ideology is not coming out of metacognitive abilities in that person, what's the point of this argument? And we do have a lot of argument like that. We do have a lot of arguments and debates. But the point is, these debates, that's why we don't have answer. That's why we always debate. If we are living in a kind of situation that we are so high in metacognitive, imagine we're in another species, we have really high, this evolutionary high metacognitive abilities, okay? That means we can even, let's say, we have awareness and control in our brain process. We can make our brain faster or slower, imagine.
At the cellular level, that's really cool.
Like I can move my hand, I can control my, cognitive abilities. So if I do have so you see, this is a little bit different. I know why I do have, for example, happiness, anxiety. So I will just take it out. Cool. I'll do that. Just like how you have control on your, for example, muscles and body, that kind of thing. So imagine you have such a kind of control in your brain. Technology help you to do that a little bit in some sense. So that is a different society, and that society discussion is really nice because we don't get emotional in the sense that lose the control, or we just say, I believe this idea out of my high metacognitive abilities. So that's a very important thing we can imagine, just for imagination.
That's awesome. We got our next topic already. Is like metacognition versus biomolecular chemistry. Who will win?
True.
Who will win?
True. That's nice. Awesome. Okay, so any other thing?
No, I think we're good. I think I've got a lot of questions. I hope the viewers, you enjoyed the chat. It was really good for me to dig into a little bit more with Uncle Ko today on these sort of stages of metacognition. And then also, let us know in the comments or anywhere, social media, what you guys think. And hopefully we'll catch you in the next episode.
And remember that this metacognition concept can be discussed through different perspectives. For example, we can just sit down and talk about, or just only neuroscientists perspective. And I really like to do that. Maybe if we can even find a good neuroscientist and invite him or her to give us a bit more insights about how this metacognition formed evolutionary in human, because that's what we have to understand it. One of the things we have to teach first to people before giving them the skills for increasing metacognitive, to tell them how this formed. We know a lot of you. Everyone in the society knows a lot about heart, about brain, about lung, about vein systems and blood, but we know very very little why we do have, for example, amygdala, how that form in the brain, how we react to this, why we are like this, why we analyze things, why we are scary, why we have a. So these are the things, unfortunately, we don't have it. They're part of the cognition. That means understanding my thinking requires understanding of the brain, understanding of the thinking procedures. So that's the kind of things we need. Courses like that. We need really good courses like that. There are good articles over the internet. So when you want to increase your metacognitive ability, it means you have to increase your desire to read about this stuff, to learn this stuff. Your children now, a lot of YouTube channels, to teach them this. That means suddenly I am a person out of Plato cave. So my best way to say what is this metacognitive ability, it will bring you out of the Plato cave. Suddenly you see you and other people and the way we think as an animal, and then what is the why we are thinking, why we make decisions like that, why we are so happy when we get discount, why we are so angry when we don't get what we want. So these are the things we understand ourselves not as a slave in a system. We get out of this matrix and then we get the control over the matrix. So we are promoting matrix 4. It is like that, really. So we can talk about this thing, but this is just something to trigger the concept in your mind. Thank you so much, you dear parents. So we'll see you in another talk. Rohan, that was very fun.
Very fun. Really enjoy it. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.